Let's continue our lesson for the revision form. The next section is a question and basis on transitions. It said, should any transitions be added to clarify the order in which events occurred? If so, where? Now, there are tons of different types of transitions. I only put a few examples to help you. Okay, so if you're doing chronological order, of course you can put first, second, third, last, etc. Of course, you can do compare and contrast depending on if you're talking about your obituary, and now you're like, this is similar to this. However, my third position, is a little different, and so you use these different words. Likewise and similarly are compare. However, and otherwise are contrast and how things are different. And then, of course, if you get to your conclusion and you want to summarize some things, you can say in conclusion, in other words, therefore. Okay, it's a ton. Our next section for you to focus on is verb tense, and think about whether or not your verb tense is in present or past. Okay, and so the question that they have for you, number 4, is, do verb tenses establish a clear chronological order? Identify any verb tenses that you believe need to be changed. Now, what this means is, if whatever you're discussing, whichever topic you choose, you must stay in all present tense or all past tense. Do not go back and forth. This is what is called whiplash, which means you are giving your reader a very, very hard time. They are having a hard time understanding which way we're going, what order. It's kind of like giving them a time loop and sending them on a quest. We do not want to send them anywhere except follow the paper in an understandable order. So let's talk a little bit about past and present tense. Past tense, subject and verb agreement doesn't matter as much unless we talk about was and were. We can look at the ones here that I have. I, since I is singular, it's I was. Okay. You will be you were, we were. James is singular like I, so James was at the house. And then James and Casey were. Okay, so there are some exceptions when we have to worry about the whether or not it agrees. But for the most part, you don't have to worry about that outside of that verb. What you have to worry about is whether or not the verb is irregular. There are some that are irregular. That means they do not have ed on the end. And so here are some examples. If you ate earlier today, then that is the past tense of eat. See, it doesn't have ed. Now, if I asked you where you went today, you said I drove. That is the past tense of drive. Fell is the past tense of fall. Hung is the past tense of hang. I tell you to hang those curtains, and you said I hung them already. And then heard is here. Hit is special in that no matter what form it is always hit. Whether it's present, past, or future. I hit the ball. We hit the ball already. And I will hit the ball out into the park later today. Now, read, you see here, it does not change. You just change the way you pronounce it depending on present or past tense. Okay? It is read if you read those chapters for last week. And if not, you say read those chapters for this week. Okay? Now, let's get to present tense. Present tense is when the stress comes. So honestly, pick whichever one works best for you. If you wanted to know past tense and you feel like that's easier, so you don't have to worry about such a verb agreement, that's fine. But let's talk about present tense if you are definitely interested in present tense. Present tense is dependent on your subjects, the amount of subjects. Singular subjects require singular verbs. A singular subject is only one subject. And singular verbs end in S, ES, or IES. Okay? And the two subjects that we have here that are exceptions to the rules that you see above is I and you. Although I and you are singular, they take the plural verb, which means they do not take the verbs that end in S. Okay? So let's see this example. It says, I look. It should say, you look. and then it'll say we look because that's plural. And then James, he's singular and he's third person, so it looks. There we go. We finally got one that fits what we need. Okay, so when you are thinking about your subjects, think about it in terms of amount. Now, let's go back and talk about plural verbs. Plural subjects require plural verbs. And of course, plural verbs are two or more, with the exception of I and you, as I said already. If you have we is more than one person. Okay, it's at least you and a friend and several other people, maybe, depending on how you're talking about it. And then James and Casey are clearly plural. So James and Casey, what do? They look. Okay, we're not sure what they're looking for, but they're looking for something. Now let's look at the past tense. Since I've talked about it and I've completed the present, let's look at the past. It says I looked. You looked. We looked. James and Casey looked. Well, James looked. Now, James and Casey looked. As you can see, they don't change. We don't have to worry about that rule with the I and you, or worry about, if this is James and, present or past. It's just looked. Okay? Now, the last question is talking about run-on sentences and comma splices, so that you can figure out if you have any, and if so, how to fix them. Remember, we talked about the different types of sentence structures, so this will come in handy. A run-on sentence and a fused sentence mean the same thing. It means you incorrectly join two sentences together without punctuation. So remember, when it comes to what makes a complete sentence and our sentence structures, remember we need a subject, a verb, we need capitalization, punctuation, and it must make sense. Remember, if you're missing the subject, the verb, or the make sense part, that makes it a fragment. With punctuation, the error, there are two different options. As you can see here, a fused sentence or comma splice. So let's look at this sentence that I have highlighted here. It says, Joe ate a bologna sandwich. That is a complete thought. It is an independent sentence, right? It's a complete, simple sentence. And this person kept writing and they forgot to put the punctuation. So a couple of ways we can fix this. A couple different options, right? We can make it a compound sentence. And he also ate chips. Okay. We can do a subordinate to make it complex. Let's say Joe ate a bologna sandwich earlier, although he ate some chips a few moments ago. Okay, Joe ate a bologna sandwich earlier, although he ate some chips a few moments ago. Of course, we can make it sound a little bit better, but it does fit the criteria for us making sure that we fix this sentence. Now, here is the second issue that you can have, a comma splice. This happens when you have two independent sentences that are joined together by a comma. And if it is two independent sentences, that means it needs something else other than a comma. A comma isn't strong enough. You can do a couple of things with this comma. You can remove it. You can add and. Remember that. If you want to remove it, you can simply put period. You could put that semicolon. Okay. So those are your options for that. So as you are looking at your paper, really think about your punctuation, where things should be. And have a great day. I hope this helps.